Dear friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be diving into another fantastic TryHackMe Whiterose. For example, I'll be showcasing to use Python to perform enumeration, and I also will be using one of the most popular module, LXM, to extract information or interesting information from web page. Although it's not necessary, just I mentioned over and over again in my channel, CTF itself is not our ultimate goal. We just want to use CTF machines to sharpen our skills. Okay? However, before we go ahead, if you don't mind, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Of course, just you can see over here, please do not forget this information because we will need it. Although at this point, we don't know what this is about. I've already made a copy in advance, so now we can head over to Kinetic to begin our journey. Okay, so first of all, we need to perform the Nmap scanning to identify open ports. To save time of this video, I've already done that before, so now we can, let's scroll up a bit. So as you can see, I took the options like scene scan, the virtual scan, default script scan, followed by the ON option to output the result into this file. Then we can retrieve scanning results whenever, just as what I'm doing now. Followed by the uppercase PN option, not do live testing. In other words, the Nmap will always assume the target machine is online. Although you can notice here the IP address maybe has been changed. Yes? Okay, but anyhow, this will not affect our penetration. From the Nmap scanning, we can tell the target machine has two open ports. The first one, 22. The surface is SSH or secure shell surface. And also we can get the version information, including its version number. Though this version is not updated, I don't think we can find any workable exploit. The second open port 80, the surface is HTTP. Sorry, I need to answer one call. Sorry for interruption. So now let's proceed. So I think it's quite clear what we are going to do next. We need to emulate the web application both manually and automatically. Let's fire up the browser to perform manual emulation first. And we can put the IP address of the target machine into the address bar of the browser. Let me copy the IP address of the target machine into the address bar. Hit enter. So, let me refresh this page. So now it's collecting to, at the bottom, you can see the browser is trying to connect this domain name, Cyprus Bank. So in other words, we need to put this entry into the host file. Let me copy and also make a note here. And we can copy the IP address of the target machine first. And followed by the domain name, we can copy. Pipe operator, sudo. Hit enter. So now let's go back to the browser and refresh this site. You can see now the site can be rendered properly. So National Bank of Cyprus, I think this is a very beautiful country. I have not been there. So we are currently under maintenance. Thank you for your patience. So this site is done. Now we can or not done, is under maintenance. We can check its source code. Nothing was found here. Next, let me check whether this site has robots file or not. Not found. Next, we can launch Nikto to perform automatic enumeration. Hit enter. In the meantime, we can try to launch GoBuster to perform directory enumeration. Let me open new tab, and we can use GoBuster, and we can use double option to specify word list. I always use this word list. If you have already followed my channel, you know this very well, right? Hit enter. And let's go back to the first tab, or the second tab. I don't think Nikto can give us anything valuable here, so I'd like to interrupt to save time of this video. In the meantime, you know, I also, similar to Nikto, in this case, GoBuster failed to discover any more or new directories or files. Again, to save time, I'd like to interrupt here. So I think we are stuck here to some extent. Actually, we also mentioned this technique before. If we can't get anything useful or valuable from the main domain, we can try to enumerate or to see whether there is any subdomain. Sometimes subdomain is more vulnerable. So how to enumerate subdomain? You can take different techniques or utilities like a FAF, but personally I like this one, W. First, and hello output, and then we can specify the URL, and then we need to specify the header, so host fast placeholder. Oh, what I'm doing. Okay, and we can specify the word list. You can use a dedicated subdomain word list, but I like to use the same word list, dear Buster. This word list is a bit bigger. Okay, and hit enter. Total requests. So this site is dead? I don't think so. It looks like the site is dead. Interesting. We can try to ping the target machine. Okay. So why it seems it's dead? The URL, host, the header, host, fuzz. Okay, it's done. And there are a lot of output, so we need to put filter. In this case, I'd like to use word as condition to filter rubbish. Okay, 3 words, and to see what we can get. All right, almost immediately we find the domain name or subdomain, a domain. And next, of course, we need to append this subdomain to the host file we can copy. the IP address of the target machine at the mean, and then the main domain name. Okay. It's done. Now let's access this new domain, new subdomain. Okay. Press enter. And okay, this is a admin panel. Beautiful. So now we can try to log in to this admin panel with default credentials like admin and admin. Login. Not working, and we can try to use login bypass technique. Anything and hit login button. Not working. Settings. Oh, we are redirected to the login page. And of course, I don't think it's not reasonable to perform brute forcing against this login panel, because earlier the loom itself has already given us this sort of information, although originally we didn't know what this information is used for. So maybe this is name and password. We can copy and paste in. Login. It does work. Fantastic. So this is the bank, recent payments, the name, and it looks like this is account of the installation amount. Scroll down, accounts. You know, because the first question we need to complete is we need to get the mobile phone number of this user. Interesting. Although I think we can find this user. Which one? So let me copy this name. Let's go back to the browser. Although we can find this name, however, unfortunately, this phone number has been hidden intentionally. So maybe the current user, Oliver, doesn't have access to this information. So how about the search? We can search name like search, and we can try to see whether this is vulnerable to SQL injection. Hit enter. So how about the settings? The current user doesn't have permissions to view this page. And also messages. Interesting. At the main panel, it looks like dialogues between some users. So how to do? And in the address bar, we find there is parameter, right? C equals to 5. So how about we change this to different number, like 7. We get something different when we pass different number. So maybe, this page or this parameter has IDOR vulnerability or insecure direct object reference. Of course, we can manually test this vulnerability, like change to 0. And also, for example, we can change it to 1. We got something different. But just I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm going to use Python to automate this process. Just I said, Python is my favorite programming language. Okay, so how to do? Let me do it very quickly. We can open inspect of developer 2 and navigate to network tab and refresh this page. And then the first of this is the real request. We can copy value as Q command. And then we can go to this website to convert this Q command to Python. And we can copy to clipboard. And then let me launch PyCharm editor to develop our own program to conduct automatic enumeration. And we can new Python file, and we can name it like enumerate DOR, and we can paste in here. And if you, of course, what we are interested in is this area. We can check its source code, and here you can see, the P tag. I just want to get this kind of information, right? Other information is rubbish for us. Okay, so how to extract interesting information from the source code? To do that, we need to import one of popular third-party module, LXML. Okay, so now let me import import LX. Oh, I think we can use from XML import etree. Okay, so now I think we can define function. In this video, I'm not going to use OOP, object-oriented programming method. Also, I think we can import a time module because I want to introduce some sort of a delay between each request. And we can define the function like connect, and we can pass one parameter ID, and then we can indent all following lines. Okay, and we need to do some modification. Cookies, yeah, it's necessary, otherwise we cannot make a successful request to this page. And here I think we can use the ID, or maybe we just, yes, ID, I think it's okay. And then we need to do some, I think we need to do some condition, or we need to have if statement, right? So how to do? We can if response status code equals 200, and then we can we can use the XPath, and then we can use XPath module to extract information, right? So how to do? We can use HTML equals to etree HTML, and then we can pass the one parameter response text. And I want to, I think what I want to get is get this. Let me go back to the source code. You know, this is this line and this line are what I'm looking for. And so such p tags are under this div, and because in this page there are different or several div tags, so we can use the id as attribute to make differentiation. Okay, so let me go back. I'd like to use, you know, we can use chat, and then we can HTML XPath. Okay, you know, dap slash means all div. Okay, but we need to put attribute id should be message. Let me check. Yes, messages, not messages. And also, you know, the first line, yes, I think we, and also another condition is because I just want to get the p tag or information between p tag. Okay, so now we can put the p, but also we need to put another condition strong. Okay, I just want to get this kind of information. And so next, so the chat records, we can set a variable empty list, and then for p in chat. So this, of course, the chat is a list, and then we can, you know, the content, or we can call it a message. We can use another XPath, p XPath, and we can use a string. So I just want to get back all strings or text between this p, between p tags. Okay. All right, and then I think we can put into the list message, and then we can return this. Of course, I think before return we can make it or convert it to a string. We can use it this way and use the line separator, okay, to join this list chat records. Otherwise, else print or not, we can return false. Okay, that's all for this function. Next, we can have a for loop for I in range, for example, between 0 or starting from 0 to 20, whatever you want to enumerate. Sometimes I just set it to 20. And then I think we can call function connect the response. So if not response, so this means nothing returned. Okay. Otherwise, I think we can print out the response, right? Print response, and between each request we can introduce delay, and also we can print out some separator, right? This one. So I think I'd like to print some progress information. Try to emulate ID. So okay, hit enter. So let me bring back terminal window to run it. Let me run it. So emulate ID 0. Awesome. So ID, when ID equals 4 equals 8. So we do not suppose, we need to emulate a very big range. Python can, can give us some sort of relief, right? So here we can find very sensitive information, the username and its password. Let me copy. And also its password. So very complicated password. So now we can try to log out and log in with the new user. And so I think we can paste in here, and this is the username. Login. It does work. Beautiful. So now I think you can see the form. Now it's in clear text, and then we can get the mobile phone number for this user. Okay, so of course we will not stop here. We need to go ahead. After all, our goal is to get root shell. So we need to find more vulnerabilities. So search, nothing vulnerable here. How about the settings? Just now, it's forbidden for the previous user. Now, we can access this function. Enter username. Maybe I can try to, maybe this username, it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. So save. Password updated to this one. Of course, this is not correct way for development. Possibly here is vulnerable, or here there is some sort of vulnerability. Maybe I can try to test the cross-site scripting vulnerability. Like alert. Save. As you can see, I don't think it's vulnerable to XSA's vulnerability. So how to the next? It's time to launch Bob Suite to make furthermore analysis. So how to do? First of all, we need to turn our proxy to Bob Suite, and then maybe I can close up PyCharm to save the resource of my machine. And then we can launch Bob Suite. Next, start Bob Suite. And then we can navigate to proxy tab and turn on intercept option, and we can try to input anything 1 2 3 and save. And then Bob Suite has intercepted this request. We can send this request to repeater module. Next, we need to make some manipulation with different fields. Okay, For example, like we can change the length of a content. Okay. So how about we remove password, internal server error. Even we are given some sort of verbose message. So reference error, views settings, EGS. To be honest, this is the first time I see this technology, EGS. And also I think here you can notice Express. So maybe this is Node.js Express framework. And then you can use Google to make some research about Node.js Express and EGS, and you can find this vulnerability. Yeah, this one. Actually, this template engine is vulnerable to remote command injection or remote command execution vulnerability. And let's scroll up, as you can see over here. So blah blah blah, server-side template injection. We have already found, we have already demonstrated similar SSTI vulnerability, but this time it's a bit different. And so analysis noticed an interesting thing in the render function, blah blah blah. And options look into the function, show it has some restrictions. It only copies the data if it's in the past list defined, blah blah blah. And if you scroll down, we can get is, this, the template compiled code. So maybe I think we can, not yet here. Let's inject some code. This is a reversal command, and we can copy. And let me send. Okay, so let me paste in here. Of course, the IP address should be replaced. And also the number. If you want, you can change any port number what you are comfortable with. Okay. And now let me copy until here. We can copy. And we need to set up the listener on the canonics waiting for collection. And let me paste in the end and send. Unfortunately, we got error, internal server error. So this means this command has some issues. We often encounter such a problem. And as pen tester, we need to try different ways to run reversal command. And here, I'm going to use this site to generate different types of reverse shells. If you want, you can check different, for example, like a bash, but none of them can work. To save time, I like to show you this one. Let me copy and paste in here. And of course, this should be this IP address of my Kali Linux, right? And the port number. And we can copy and replace existing reversal command. And then let me copy this part or this section and replace this part to see what will happen. Send. So this time it looks like no error returned. As you can see, beautiful. we have already got a collection from the target machine. Next, we can spawn an interactive shell by Python. Python 2 is not available. Python 3 is there, so then we can import pty module. And then we can, of course, next, also I'm going to define term variable. So then I can clear the screen whenever to get a bigger space on the window, right? Clear. And then we can go to home directory because we need to gather information, try to make that movement. Oh, we successfully grab the user flag. Beautiful. So next, I think we can gather more information. For example, clear. For example, like a sudo. Beautiful. We can run command or this command, but we must follow by this script to elevate privilege without password of root user. So maybe we can run it to see what it's about. Let me copy. Oh, we can edit this file. It looks like this is V editor. Let me exit the first. Okay. And also I'd like to check the permissions of this file. Unfortunately, current user doesn't have right permission to this file. So how to do? Actually, this command can allow current user to run as super user, in this case root. And actually this sudo edit has one vulnerability, a bit new vulnerability. Yes, this one. And we can use this way to to get what we want. For example, we can try to use the vulnerability to add current user to sudo's files, but there is some problem. So this behavior leads to a confusion when injecting an extra double dash in the previous environment variables. So let me show you what I mean. Expert editor. For example, I'd like to manipulate this one, sudoers, and we can try to run this command. However, although I can do something, but this shell is not so stable. I cannot, for example, append the new user, in this case web, to this file. So let me quit. So how to do next? Because here, at least we should retrieve the root flag. So unlike other machines, we try to get root shell, we try to retrieve or grab the root flag. How to do? Export editor cat. Okay, hit enter, and let me run this command again. As you can see, we successfully grabbed the final flag, although I failed to get root shell. All right. If you know how to stabilize this shell, please let me know in the comment. Thank you in advance. Alright, so I think that's pretty much it. I'd like to see you next. Bye. Have a good day, please.